Hello, fabulous Virgo. Welcome to your horoscope for the month of May 2014, General Focus. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. This month starts off with an energy that you're actually carrying into this month. In the last days of April, we have a solar eclipse taking place, and this eclipse is very harmoniously placed for you in fellow Earth sign Taurus. And the part of the sky that this eclipse is speaking to has to do with vision. It has to do with expansion. It has to do with realizing that the world is a lot smaller than you previously believed it to be. And there are different ways that this energy can play out. Now, keep in mind, some of you will have seen developments in this front in the last days of April. Some of you likely will have to wait into the early part of May to experience some of the lessons that'll be coming up in areas surrounding vision, surrounding interacting with more of the world, being at home in more of the world as well. Some of you are going to find yourself entering into a bigger stage than you knew before, whether it's with your voice or with your ideas or just with your offering and what it is that you have to share. Because of how positively aspected this particular solar eclipse is, I mean, it's speaking in harmony with a lot of different power players in the sky. It does suggest to me that, and because it is a solar eclipse and things around a solar eclipse tend to happen very quickly, tend to happen by surprise, it does suggest that answers are going to be coming in, realizations are going to be coming in, developments come in that allow you to feel like you're starting a brand new chapter. Now, because there's an element here of being connected to the world, one way that this could play out has to do with actually feeling another place calling you, another culture calling you, another country calling you, or another coast calling you. Another way that this can play out has to do around citizenship, immigration issues. Those tend to have some really favorable outcomes right about now, much by surprise, that allows you to feel that you are stepping into a new sense of citizenship rather quickly, rather by surprise. So even if some issues seem to have been going on and on for a while, given the placement of Saturn in the sky right now, and a part of the sky that has to do with agreements and paperwork, it might be that some people out there have felt that the paperwork is really hard to do. Well, now you should get all systems go, and it should start to feel a lot clearer. This is also the part of the sky that has to do with higher education. So some of you are going to hear some good news along those fronts. As I said, this whole idea of doing the paperwork has been a real learning opportunity since Saturn has been moving through the sign of paperwork, of agreements since late 2012. And so this should provide a nice little boost that the work that you do does pay off, given enough time and given the faith and given the process as well, and trusting the process to see it through. And those of you who just feel like you have a message or you have a new place to go, a new adventure calling you, this could be the time when that inspiration reaches you, that understanding reaches you. Either it's going to reach you and allow you to start fresh, or you're ready to share your passion of one of these areas having to do with your passion for a way of thinking, a system of ideas, or another place as well. And so all in all, it's set to be adventure. All in all, you're sharing on a bigger scale than you have before. And all of this seems to be coming up quite by surprise and seems to be coming rather quickly. But the results of the events now seem to be very long lasting. Again, given how this particular eclipse is speaking to a lot of different power players in the sky. Once we get you to the middle of the month, your focus does shift and comes to that very part of the sky that has to do with, as I said, agreements and paperwork, among other things. And so when I look at the fact that there's this full moon happening at that time, it does suggest to me that there likely will be a need to sort of go and consider old forms, go and consider what it was that you said before, particularly in writing, and to realize what agreements were made, or some agreement is going to come up right now, again, right around the middle of the month. Now, what I find really interesting about what's taking place in the middle of the month is not only do we have this full moon playing out, but on the 24th of May, we enter what's known as the shadow period for Mercury. And so your ruling planet, Mercury, is going to go retrograde next month. So giving you a bit of a heads up. And once he reaches shadow, so the 24th of May, will reach at 24 degrees of Gemini. Now, what that means is next month, or beginning next month, Mercury is going to retrace his path back to where he was and will arrive back at where he was on July the 1st. So where he is on May the 24th will be exactly where he will be again on July 1st once he goes retrograde. So this is what astrologers call the shadow. It's sort of that period and that path the planet is walking, that planet will eventually walk over again in retrograde, and then finally for a third and final time once that planet goes direct again. Usually it's just 3 times over the same pathway, especially where it comes to Mercury. So having sort of given you the technical stuff, having given you this heads up, I mention this because the part of the sky, the natural ruler, Mercury is the natural ruler of the part of the sky that has to do with paperwork, okay? And also the natural ruler of the part of the sky that has to do with expertise, which makes him your ruler because your sort of natural mode of being, natural area of being also covers this idea of you wanting to and really coming into yourself in your life by being really good at something. So you put all of this together, and it does suggest to me that you are really undergoing a process now of starting to understand more fully what it is ultimately that you are going for and what it is ultimately that you are hoping to achieve. So while all this vision and all this sort of inspired energy at the beginning and all the changes that seem to be happening, in some cases very fortunate changes that seem to be happening, can lift you in the best possible sense of the word. Once we get you to the middle of the month, there is a certain groundedness, but still positivity that's taking place. And what I do really like about this full moon is that because it is happening so close to Saturn, and Saturn is speaking in such harmony with Jupiter, and this full moon is speaking in such harmony with Jupiter, it does suggest to me that you are getting the support you need, you're getting the right advice, you have the right inspiration, all these different elements are coming together. But just keep in mind that even with all that, and even with this element of fruition happening and change happening, do be open to the fact that sometimes when you think that that's it and you've got it, you still may have it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's it. And I say that because all that vision that's happening, all the sort of paperwork that you're doing in the middle of the month, it looks like some of that stuff is going to have to come back around once we get you a little bit further down the road, particularly once we get you around the end of June and into the beginning of July. So if you can keep that perspective, then you utilize this time especially well by staying in the moment and by doing your best with whatever it does that presents itself to you. And speaking of career, when I look at the end of the month, there is a new moon taking place in a part of the sky that has to do with career. And I do think that there is going to be a shift in focus to big picture matters, to matters of success and matters of achievement. And all of this sort of culminates. You've sort of done the work, you've had the vision, and then you get down to the nitty gritty, you do the work, and then you move on and start looking at, okay, what can I now manifest? What can I now achieve? And it looks like a lot of Virgos out there are going to find themselves starting afresh, starting anew on a career path with an understanding of ultimately where it is that you hope to go and what it is still that you feel that you desire to achieve. There is motivation, there is energy there as well, and there's support from higher ups. Utilize this time well. I always remind you of that. Every moment is special. Every moment does pass as well, and every moment has its learning in it for you. The beginning of the month holds learning in understanding yourself as part of a grand really picture and a grand tapestry as well. This moment is a part of a grand tapestry of your life, and that you are a part of a grander tapestry still. In the middle of the month, there will be some details you've got to pay attention to, and yet you seem to do it quite well and do it with quite flair and see the payoff rather quickly and see how that sort of paperwork that comes up for you is actually going to benefit you in the big picture of your life. And by the time we get you to the end of the month, and the energy you'll be carrying into next month has to do with knowing that you can trust a process to achieve the biggest dreams that you have for your life. Thank you for watching. It'll be a great month. Be fabulous and enjoy.